Hello, my name is Giorgio Biancorosso. I'm a professor of music at HKU. Welcome to Orchestral Spotlight, an innovative series conceived by HKU MUSE in collaboration with the Hong Kong Philharmonic. Today I'm delighted to have Aziz Barnard here with me, Principal Percussionist of the Hong Kong Philharmonic. Thank you, Aziz, for agreeing to being here today. And thank you also for agreeing to doing this with us. This is a new, innovative concept that takes each orchestral section as the center around which a repertoire is designed and eventually performed. What I'd like to hear from you, Aziz, today is maybe something about what makes a section such a strong feature of the orchestra, and what are the dynamics that guide the functioning of the section, and also the relationships among different sections of the same orchestral ensemble.
Thanks for having me. Well, percussion section in an orchestra is nobody's playing in strict rhythm on the stage. It just never happens. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't, because it's not. The ensemble's too large, and by the time the sound crosses the stage, strange things happen. So you have to always account for this. And so that's the art of our section, is playing a little bit at a time, but making it sound like it's in time for everyone else. And one of my teachers would say, you got to give them something to play to up down in the front of the stage. So that's kind of what we're doing. And
how do you calibrate the dynamics of it?
Well, the instruments are themselves vary so much in their natural dynamic range that you kind of, sometimes you're just putting the brakes on an instrument, like the xylophone. It's just, you just tap the thing and it's usually enough. Some instruments though, can't hear it so well in an orchestra. It's interesting, like a marimba, it's tough to hear in an orchestra actually.
We were talking earlier about, before the broadcast started, about timpanis versus the percussion. Could you explain a little bit the difference?
Timpani are, of course, a percussion instrument, naturally. But then it has to do with just the historical progression of orchestras. And, you're Haydn and Mozart, there's timpani in many works, operas, symphonies, and whatnot. But not much percussion. Percussion in these days is still very much a folk happening in some ways, and then progress another few generations, you start adding some percussion parts into pieces, and so it's just a later addition to the orchestra, and so it became its own section, and there's usually timpani happening, and so there's somebody there all the time playing it.
And again, what's your anchor in the orchestra? If any, the conductor, maybe another section?
It depends on how far away the section is from my actual location on the stage. And which becomes awkward if you're playing a continuous rhythm. You're playing an ostinato, but now you're with the horn who's right next to you, and then you're with the violins across the stage, and then the basses. And so actually you're adjusting back and then forward. But if you're playing with the sound that you hear from the front of the stage, you're late by a mile. So it becomes strange that you're playing ahead of what you hear. And then you have to keep the distance you're ahead the same. And then you hear them start to get a little bit, they're taking some rubato, and you give them a little space. So there's a lot of anticipation, and I'm like, they're going to take time here, and I give them, or the brasser's going to take a breath. And as a result of this, you can't play straight rhythms. You have to always stylize a little bit.
Taking a look at the repertoire for the May 16th concert, I noticed a lot of 20th century music, obviously. Could you walk us through the repertoire a little bit?
Sure.
Just a few highlights, and tell us what guided the design of the repertoire, the choices you made with your colleagues.
We kind of collaborated as a group a little bit. I don't want to say like I programmed we all sort of, made suggestions, and in a way they're, I don't want to say standard, but they're very characteristic, as you were saying, especially mid-20th century percussion ensemble writing. Of course, the most famous work on the piece is, of course, the Cage third construction, which I like John Cage because there's something, for me, quintessentially Californian about it somehow to me. And I think it's fun and frequently silly, and yet he's invariably labeled as this serious artist.
Profound.
Yes, yeah. And I'm always, if there's one picture of him smiling where I kind of feel like he gets the joke somehow.
I think with the mask on, Cage will be pretty much inscrutable.
Yeah.
But maybe
those
even
eyes,
without
yeah.
And well, this makes me wonder though, if you play these pieces as a chamber ensemble, then the kind of rehearsing you're doing is very different.
It's all different, yeah.
Because you're not just learning the music, you're actually shaping a performance. How different is that? And how novel to some of your colleagues, or maybe to yourself?
The question I'm always asking on stage is, what can I get away with exactly? And because, like I said earlier, if you're playing it too straight, you get in trouble, musically speaking. So you want to have a bag of tricks and see what you can get away with. In a percussion ensemble, you run into the problem of less limitations and
exposure.
You can run wild and have fun, but with some of these pieces, like another reason I like Cage, you can find these weird instruments that just sound strange, and the orchestra sometimes we don't.
You can't do that.
Sometimes you do, but sometimes it should just be beautiful. And but in some of these other ones, it's fun to make some strange noises.
One particularly interesting element of the program is the inclusion of a piece by a young Hong Kong composer, Wang Jing, who's a year one PhD candidate in composition, working with my colleague Chan Ying-Hian. And she has a very interesting background. She studied at the Central Conservatory of China in Beijing, then she went to Cologne to do a master's in composition. Now she's back here, so she has a very international outlook. At the same time, she's very interested in keeping up this tradition within Chinese music of mimetic sounds, of attempting to capture the sounds of nature. And so it looks like her piece is an attempt to exploit the extraordinary range of a percussion ensemble to depict a situation. We are especially grateful that you're willing to do this, because we strongly believe in letting composers collaborate with performers during the compositional process itself and not just after. Have you had a chance to talk to her or look at her piece?
I haven't worked with her before, and I haven't seen her piece yet. I'm excited to. I understand it's taken from Tang Dynasty writings, describing garden, and this is with regards to her piece. It brings us to something with percussion we deal with a lot, where there's this intersection with avant-garde and the traditional, that the two seem to can't escape each other somehow. That even the most avant-garde composers end up using the most traditional instruments and so forth, and almost depicting nature. And this is what she's doing. But that's perhaps avant-garde in the West. That's not avant-garde in these parts, though. And great tradition of it. And I'm looking forward to see what she writes. I hope everyone comes to see her piece when we perform it.
Well, Aziz, thank you so much for this very insightful comments. I very much look forward to hearing you on May 16th. And thank you all for listening, and we look forward to welcoming you too to Orchestral Spotlight on May 16th. Thank you very much.